The Colts just had a meltdown out in Kansas City, and fan anxiety is rising, to say the least. You guys had questions, and I've got some answers for you. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the show, everybody. I am Jake Arthur, the Indianapolis Colts beat writer for Roundtable Sports, and welcome to Locked On Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network out there. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the entire app. All right, everybody. So let's just get into it a little bit. Obviously, the Colts have had a rocky go of it the last month. So they had their bye week in there, but outside of that, their last 3 games, they're 1-2, and they've had really rocky performances against the Steelers, Falcons, and now the Chiefs. They led the Chiefs 20-9 going into the fourth quarter. Completely fell apart offensively, 3 3-and-outs in the fourth quarter, let the Chiefs come back. And then, the Chiefs tied it at the end, very end of regulation, send it to overtime. Colts offense still lifeless, and the Chiefs go and win it. So a total collapse by the Colts, no matter what the national media wants to tell you about how the Chiefs controlled this game and the Colts were lucky to just be there. That is not how it went whatsoever. I actually got a wild hair and wrote about it over at Roundtable Sports earlier this week. If you didn't already see that, go check it out. But we're going to kind of go over the tail of the tape here, what went wrong in this game. Because, we opened up the floor to you guys for questions, and you had a lot about this game still. I think we're all ready to move along to the Texans next week, but there's just still so much laundry we got to air out here with it when it comes to this Chiefs game. So this first one here is from Whoa Domino. What is the offensive play calling? Thoroughly outcoached in the second half against KC. This was just a game that I thought went against a lot of the things that Shane Steichen kind of is in his DNA. The things we're used to seeing from him. They didn't go for any fourth downs in this one, which is odd because they go for most fourth downs. Now their ineffectiveness in the fourth quarter on offense, that's probably when they would have done a lot of it, but they just kept going 3 and out. I think they scored on 4 of their 6 drives in the first 3 quarters. So they didn't necessarily need to keep going for fourth downs there, but no fourth downs, just kind of a lack of aggressiveness. And then obviously I think what really kind of peeved everybody in the fourth quarter is, again, 3 3-and-outs in the fourth quarter. They ran the ball 1 time. And that 1 time they ran the ball was when they were backed up at their own 6-yard line, I believe. And it was a loss, and it was just ugly. I know a lot of people really like the aggressiveness, and I think even like Zach and I would maybe have a little bit of debate on this. But Kansas City did do everything they could to stop the run. And for the most part, it was effective, even though Jonathan Taylor ripped through and got some productive gains there at certain points. Personally, I understand, and I think this is probably where Shane was coming from. He knew Kansas City was going to try and stop the run, especially as the Colts try and milk out the clock and kind of nurse this 11-point lead in the fourth quarter. And then he just went pass heavy, and they got behind the sticks early every time, and they weren't able to run whatsoever because they kept passing, and it was ineffective. And the Chiefs were bringing pressure on Daniel Jones. I think it was 11 blitzes and 19 pressures overall and 31 dropbacks. So they just completely abandoned the run. And, if you're going to fail offensively and you're nursing a 2-score lead, do it trying to run the ball. That's at least going to take time off the clock. With the Colts 3 3-and-outs in the fourth quarter, it took just 3 minutes and 15 seconds, I think, off the clock. And that allowed Kansas City more than enough time to come back and win, because the defense did get a couple of stops at certain points. But when they're on the field the entire time, over 90 snaps, that's just not sustainable. So I'm with you guys. Obviously, I did not love the offensive play calling late. This next one is from Edward. I have two questions. The first being, why did the offense not attempt a single deep shot? I feel like that was a big reason why the Chiefs defense was able to drive so confidently on the short to intermediate throws down the stretch. And then Edwards' other one is, why did the O-line struggle to run block so much? So we'll go with the deep shots one. That's valid. I mean, the Colts only attempted one pass beyond 20 yards. That was deep down the right side. I believe it was to Alec Pierce. And then of the 31 pass attempts that Daniel Jones had, only 6 of them were beyond 10 yards. So, Jones was obviously under duress quite a bit, not looking to go very far down the field, even though you've got guys that can do it. Josh Downs and Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman Jr., I thought they were all kind of being used much too short. Obviously, Alec Pierce can do some things for you downfield. That's where he butters his bread, so to speak. So yeah, just a lack of aggressiveness, just everything all together. It just, I think the entire game plan is something they might want back. So I'm with you. Not much going on downfield, and that statistically is supported. I think going into it, this was a matchup where if you hit some of these crossers and slants over the middle of the field and got Kansas City's linebackers to be a little over aggressive or pull up a little bit, that really was an area where they could have taken advantage. And it did happen a couple times. They got a couple yard after catch things that worked well for them. I think, Tyler Warren off the bat. But overall, yeah, the entire thing from play calling to execution just left a lot to be desired. And then hitting on Edwards' last one here, why did the O-line struggle to run block so much? So I was going to go and check the NFL Next Gen stats to see how often Jonathan Taylor did run into a stacked box or was presented with a stacked box, because I think we could all just see with the eye test, like that clearly is what the Chiefs were trying to do. Let's let Daniel Jones, if we lose, make Daniel Jones beat us, but we're not going to let Jonathan Taylor, the league's leading rusher, go for 200 on us, which is smart. I mean, they put guys in the box. They did things to kind of muddy the spacing for the Colts, I think. But yeah, I think that's really what happened to the O-line, just mismatches. Like, you got too many guys to cover. If the Colts aren't going to go with 12 and 13 personnel a ton and match those numbers, then it's just going to be ugly. And they didn't want to run a ton, I guess, or at least their normal recipe is really not to establish the run much until later in the game, the last 20 to 25 minutes. And that's just not how the tenor of the game went, I guess, for them. As we just discussed, they didn't really do it at all in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, Shane Steichen has been asked about it a handful of times so far on Sunday and Monday. And, he did say, on their final drive of regulation in the fourth quarter, maybe he could have run it a little bit. But I don't think he had a ton of regrets about how things went. When asked about fourth downs and such, he did say, you kind of go back and rewind those things in your head and wonder if you made the right decision, so to speak. So yeah, overall game plan and execution, I just think there is a lot that these guys are going to want back on this one. All right, guys. So coming up next, you had more questions, especially some revolving around this game. Some specific targets mentioned in this one as well. So we'll get to that in just a moment. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to if a fourth quarter comeback is on the way. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back, everybody, and thank you for making Locked On Colts your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network on the planet. All right, so we're getting back to your Q&A here. This one is from For the Shoe. After watching him get snatch trapped into oblivion by rookie Josh Simmons all day long on Sunday, is Kwity Paye a priority to re-sign this offseason? You can't pay everybody. The Colts do have several in-house guys that they probably would like to have back. And I think under the right circumstances, the Colts would probably like to have Kwity Paye back. But a guy of his caliber is probably going to get 10 to 12 million on the open market per year. And that might be lowballing it a little bit. It's tough because Kwity Paye is a quality starter as a run defender and everything, but he's obviously never developed to the level of pass rusher that you need. By the end of his fifth season, I think he's got 3.5 sacks right now. I think that's 30 for his career. At this rate, he's only going to barely have more sacks for his 5-year career than Myles Garrett is going to wind up with just this season alone. You know what I mean? So obviously, he's not a guy that's going to be a prolific pass rusher. And obviously, here in his 5th season, I think we know what he is. Very solid run defender that can set an edge, high motor, high effort. But he's really only going to get you 6 to 8 sacks a season. Like, that's who he is. And when you don't have a guy that's going to get you 10, 12, 14 sacks a year on the other side, that really starts to show up. And especially DeForest Buckner not being around, that really shows up because the Colts need pass rushers right now. And Latu is, I think he's been kind of productive, but he's not yet that 10, 12, 14 sack guy. And when you're missing a DeForest Buckner, you just need all the help you can get. And Paye is just not a consistent enough guy. So I'll say all that to say this. It seems unlikely for me that Kwity Paye is re-signed. They activated his 5th-year option for this year, I think, to be kind of one final evaluation year. And obviously, we saw Dayo Odeyingbo go out the door to the Bears. So they needed that little extra depth. They needed one more year to evaluate with Kwity Paye. And he's been healthy, but he just hasn't been that guy that's going to kind of wreck shop and even really rack up the tackles for loss. I think you could probably make an exception for him what he lacks as a pass rusher if he was perennially getting 12 to 15 tackles for loss a year, but that's not happening either. He's just a good, solid run defender who can give you a little bit as a pass rusher, but I don't think that's enough for what the Colts need, and I don't think it's enough for what he's probably going to earn from another team on the open market and free agency, because teams will pay for guys that can give you something. Just remember, Samson Ebukam is making $10 million a year this year for never having had 10 sacks in a season either. So that's why I say Kwity Paye is probably getting 10 to 12 million per year as a floor on the open market next offseason. I think that's probably just a little higher than what the Colts are going to wind up wanting to pay. All right, this next one is from Emelash McCorm. Who really was, and I apologize if I butchered that name. That was not easy to go. So who really was to blame for the 4th quarter and overtime collapse of the offense? Was it Daniel Jones? Was it the receivers? Was it the play calling by Coach Steichen? I think it really take your pick. I don't think any one area, holds the entire burden of blame there. I think it was a group effort. I do think the defense has probably been given too much crap for what they really had to wind up dealing with. So they were on the field enough to play 2 games. I think it was 95, 96 snaps. And that really does equate to about 2 games just about of gameplay. Obviously, that can be fine and that can work if the Colts would have continued scoring on offense. Like I mentioned, the Chiefs dominated time of possession. I think they had a 17-minute advantage. And it didn't really matter much because the Colts were scoring with those limited opportunities. Again, 4 of 6 drives resulted in points through the first 3 quarters. And so, they weren't turning it over. They weren't getting sacks. Special teams was playing lights out. So it's like, it didn't matter that the Chiefs were dominating with the yardage and the time of possession. The Colts offense didn't need that in order to put points on the board. So if the Colts offense would have continued and even just been putting field goals on the board in the fourth quarter, you could have lived with the fact that the defense was on the field for forever. But it's really difficult to expect the defense to not get gassed when they are on the field, like double the amount that their offensive counterparts are. You know what I mean? And all things considered, I think they did a really nice job. They had 4 sacks on Mahomes. They forced a couple turnovers, and they stood up at least a time or two in the red zone really, really well. So I thought the Colts defense did a really nice job overall. We talked about Shane Steichen not running the ball in the fourth quarter. I think that was a huge deal. Like, of all the things that carry the most weight, I think that is probably the biggest one to me, only because, like I mentioned near the top, if you're going to fail running the ball, it's at least taking time off the clock or making the Chiefs use timeouts. If you're just going 3 and out with nothing but passes, it's taking no time off the clock. It's getting you nowhere. You're not moving the ball whatsoever. You're not able to, even if you're going to punt, you're not pinning the Chiefs back any further with your punts. Like, the Colts just don't have the quarterback right now to deal with that. Like, they were getting heavy pressure, and he has not dealt well with pressure in a month. Like, this is now 3 games in a row now where it's a trend where he handled it great early in the season. It's not like he wasn't getting pressure, because he faced the Rams, he faced the Broncos. I mean, even against the Dolphins, they got after him a little bit, but he was able to escape, keep composed, and find an open receiver accurately to get some sort of gain. And it worked because it kept the Colts ahead of the sticks. It kept them moving. It kept them on the field. The Colts offense had been sustaining really, really long drives themselves early in the year. But for whatever reason, it's like Jones is, I don't know if he's paranoid about coughing up fumbles or just getting like the crap knocked out of him or delivering an accurate throw. But there is something that's changed in him when it comes to all this pressure and all these hits and all these turnovers. Again, 12 sacks against the Falcons and the Steelers. Was that like 7 turnovers as well in those 2 games? So like he had a lot he was dealing with. He didn't turn the ball over or take any sacks against the Chiefs. So you kind of wonder why he still isn't delivering the ball accurately under pressure or handling it like he was early in the season. But yeah, I think kind of everyone shares the blame there. Steichen as a play caller, Jones and his inability to execute under pressure. Those guys primarily, I think, share it. And then if you want to put anything on the defense, there was a couple times where it seemed like there was a blown coverage when Kansas City got their bigger pass plays in the fourth quarter. It's one thing if it's just getting beaten one-on-one, but like if you're blowing coverages, that's clearly a miscommunication thing. That's a problem that the coaches will always want cleaned up moving forward. All right, guys, so we have a few more questions and really grievances and people just wanting to air out their sadness that you guys sent in coming up here in just a moment.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, welcome back, everydayers. We are answering the questions that you guys sent in on socials today. If you didn't get your question in or I haven't answered it yet, don't worry. We're going to do another bonus episode like we did last week. Again, you guys sent a ton of questions, enough to fill another new episode. So I know it's Thanksgiving week, but we didn't get with you Monday because, we want to have time to really give you guys something different that you maybe didn't get from the squad show, like us being able to watch the games again, us getting your feedback in these Q&A, stuff like that. So, just hectic stuff, obviously early in the week, but as we're all going through Thanksgiving week, schedules are crazy. So we want to give you guys an extra bonus episode later in the week, which probably will drop on Thanksgiving. So be sure to look out for that later in the week. This next question here is from Cam Collins. Why do we have to reflexively pick our team apart after a loss instead of considering that the other team just deserves some credit for playing incredible defense? So Cam, I do get where you're coming from, but I'm kind of from the thinking of teams when they don't perform well are a victim of the expectations that they have created. So this team was damn near flawless through the first half of the schedule. They had just one loss. They were going toe to toe with playoff caliber teams, only losing to the Rams, who kind of look like the Super Bowl front runner at this point. They beat the Broncos, they beat the Chargers. They were killing the really bad teams. And now 3 games in a row, they're 1-2. So they've dropped 2 of their last 3 games. And we're seeing a lot of the same problems continue to happen. So like I mentioned with the Steelers and Falcons, that was 12 sacks and I think 8 turnovers overall for the team. But even though they had 0 sacks and 0 turnovers against the Chiefs, so much of it felt the same offensively, at least in the fourth quarter. Heavy pressure, the passing game and Daniel Jones not being able to adjust to it. Now, I understand he has this fibula injury, which I think we all can see he is a bit limited by it. But you know what? The Colts aren't giving anything on that he is limited by it. So if that's what they're putting out there, that's what we have to take it as. Sorry, it's you guys are saying he's not limited or the play calling is not limited by the injury. So that's got to mean that what's being called has to be able to be executed, So I just think, Cam, to answer your question, I don't like in general. Yes, some people are very overreactive about one game and saying, fire this person, fire that person, we're terrible, this or that. But this isn't one game. This is 3 games in a row of a lot of the same issues for a team that looked like the best team in the NFL through the first half of the schedule. And now that it's time to really sort things out and secure your spot atop the playoffs, we're not even positive that the Colts are going to win the division at this point. And it looked like they were going to run away with it at a certain time. So I think there's real concern and anxiety from the fan base about what the final 6 games are going to look like, because we don't know. You have 4 of those are division games. The Jaguars don't look terrible, and the Texans, that defense is unbelievable. And with what we've seen the Colts offense, what we've seen from them these last few games, you can't be super confident that these are all going to be wins. And then you've got the Seahawks, which is another one of the best teams in the league, and the 49ers, who are always tough and hardly ever get blown out. Shoot, they just blew the Panthers out on Monday Night Football. So this final 6-game stretch is not kind. The Colts have got to get it together and figure out these same chronic issues that keep popping up their heads over the last month. So again, I get it. There's a lot of times people are very reactive after one game, but I don't think that's what this is. And then the rest of this here is just people being sad, but I thought these were funny, so let's go ahead and get to them. This one was from Imagine Eric. Will the joy of the first half of the year be enough to sustain us through the long winter if the second half continues this way And he said the too long didn't read version is, why can't Colts fans just be allowed happiness? I'm with you, Imagine Eric. We can never have nice things, it seems. This next one from Zonson 3000. Can I donate some extra stem cells to DeForest Buckner? Maybe you might have to go to Panama and just write him and let him know there's something waiting there for him, so his neck can heal and get back better than ever. And then this last one from Kyle Winslow, just defeated. He said, "I'm sad." I think a lot of people feel that way, but it's not the end of the year. Like I mentioned, this episode probably had a little bit of a doom and gloom vibe to it, which I didn't intend, but that was just kind of the tone of the questions. Again, this team is 5 games above 500, still very much likely to make the playoffs as long as they split these last 6 and go 3-3, they'll be 11-6. And I think 11-6 will be enough to get you into the playoffs. So as long as they just don't completely collapse, they'll get into the playoffs. We've seen that they can go toe-to-toe and win against any team in the NFL. Even that Rams game, the Colts should have won that one. We all know that. So this is still a good team with some things they absolutely have to get figured out. I'm not incredibly discouraged. I'm concerned with, again, the repeated issues. But, there's a lot of ball game left in this season. So we need you guys to stick with us and keep watching. We'll keep bringing you content as well each and every day. So thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen of the day. The NFL season is in full swing. So for your next listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler Madman Rowland gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And guys, don't forget, if you want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get the inside scoop about what's going on, follow the link in our show notes. When we do these Q&A episodes, all of the insiders get their questions answered every single time. They get first dibs. So if you want some of that sweet sauce, go ahead and go to the notes and be sure to sign up there. If you don't already, follow at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2 on Twitter. We're also on TikTok and Instagram as well. Also, subscribe on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. We would love those ratings and reviews as well. They help us get up the charts. So please, now that this is about to be done, just go ahead and drop us a nice little rating and a review as well. Even if you just say, love the show. That's nice, quick, and easy. And with that, we will see you guys. Have a great day, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.